Right, so today I wanted to make a video on why society is kind of close to the brink of maybe not a major collapse, but at least like a modern day Great Depression kind of thing. In that, another thing too that I want to point out is why the vast majority of people would agree with me on that. I don't think a lot of people would say, "Oh no, it's not true. We live in the greatest, we're in the greatest time to be alive, ever," which is true, but it's not true in this sense. It's true in that the technology we have just makes life very easy, but it's also not true in that the technology we have also makes which also it also gives us a very great degree of responsibility, and the problem is that it gives us the ability to have something for nothing, which is very hard, and it tempts people, and it can be very bad. But what I wanted to say is that whenever I talk with people about modern times and all this kind of stuff, and talking about governments, welfare systems, healthcare systems, all this kind of stuff, I'm always in favor of basically as coming as close to humanly possible as outright getting rid of government funded or taxpayer funded welfare, healthcare, all that kind of stuff. And the common argument that people come up with against it is that if we don't have that, then how will society run? If we don't have that, there'll be mass amounts of deaths from poor people, from sick people, all that kind of stuff. And when I say that society, for my reasons, is on the brink of, at the very least, a depression, people will inevitably disagree with me. Like I said, and they'll tell you, "Oh yeah, we live in the greatest time to be alive ever," and whatnot. But what they fail to realize is that they believe the exact same thing, and that why I have the debt clock up here is that debt is basically giving people something for nothing, i.e., government funded healthcare, welfare, free this, free that. And what people are saying is that if we get rid of the free this, the free that, society will collapse. So you think that if we don't, I mean, this is the US, I think that Canada's and a lot of Europe's numbers are pretty similar. There's not massive differences. $68,294 per person in debt. If we don't have that amount of money in debts attached to every citizen, then society will collapse. So what you're saying is that society needs that amount of debts per person to function. And someone who proposes that we don't do that, well, society's going to collapse anyway. So that's kind of what people are saying, and to me, that's kind of it's insane if you ask me that people people believe that if we don't have all this stuff, that society is going to collapse. Then they'll turn around and be like, they'll tell someone who who's saying that with this mass immigration, with the political landscape being as polarized as ever, they'll tell, and you say that things are getting pretty crazy out there. I think that we could be in for a civil war or a collapse of some sort, and they'll like I said, they'll shoot you down. But then if you point out that if getting rid of some of these kind of things, which are unsustainable, um, for example, the province of Alberta, the amount of taxes they generate as a province is almost the exact same number as the amount they spend on healthcare. So in other words, every dollar of taxes you pay that's provincial, or it would be comparable, the U.S. Comparison of state tax, um, every dollar you pay goes to healthcare, which means every provincially funded thing, roads, schools, I believe are provincially funded. Anything that's funded by the province, or like I said, U.S. comparison, the state, is funded through debt or grant programs, basically. So that's how society is running now, in that we need massive debts to function. And the problem is that for anyone who's been in massive debts for a long time, tell me how you got out of it. The only way you got out of it is to quit your nasty habits. You cut back. You basically penny pinched. I guess nowadays it would be more comparable to like dollar pinching. But the only way to get out of this is to cut back, which means we need to scale back welfare, we need to scale back publicly funded healthcare, publicly funded schools, publicly funded everything. And the problem, like I said, is that if you don't do it, the collapse is going to be bigger. If we do it now, we can plan it out. We can deal with the problems that come up during it a lot easier. But the problem is that if we wait and wait and wait, like I said, if you're in massive amounts of debts as an individual and you just keep putting it off and putting it off, and the interest keeps piling up and piling up, well, eventually things are going to come to a boiling point, and your life's going to be over. And this is the same thing with every Western country, is that if we keep going down this path, then we're going to come to a boiling point. And the other thing too is that these people claim that we can't do this stuff because we need to help the poor and all this stuff. When if there's another Great Depression, the modern version of it, which would be quite a bit worse, which I almost guarantee happens at some point if we continue down this path. The poor are going to be the most disproportionately affected. So you claim to care so much about the poor, but they would be the ones most disproportionately affected by something like this. So if you really care about the poor, we need to come up with systems that can help wean people off of the entitlements that they have to stuff they haven't earned. And the problem is that a lot of these people getting the free health care, getting the welfare and all this stuff, they don't need it. They're for lack of a better word, lazy. I know studies have shown that counties in the U.S. that require people to work who are on welfare drops a lot. I think the numbers, it's over 50%. So the other thing is that about 2/3 of health ailments are lifestyle related, which means if the incentive was there for people for people to have to pay for their own health care, they would exercise, they would eat healthy, all this kind of stuff. So basically, long story short, if we don't start creating incentives for people to not be on welfare, to not be unhealthy and all this kind of stuff, which by paying their bills for all this kind of stuff, that's a direct incentive. There couldn't be, like, directly paying someone to do something. I mean, it's not directly, it's more indirectly, but still paying someone to act a certain way is the easiest way to get them to behave a certain way. There's no better way to get people to act a certain way rather than to indirectly pay them to do it. So that's about it as far as this video goes. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.